All right. Well, welcome everybody to our event this evening. I'm really excited to have everyone here. My name is Michael Greer. I am the president and CEO at ArtsFund. I identify as a light-skinned Black male. I have a bald head and a mustache. I'm wearing a pink shirt and sitting in front of a window to my garden. I wanted to start this by saying that this panel represents a really important conversation, and the intersection between behavioral health and access to artistic expression is one that ArtsFund wants to highlight today and in the future. Our mission at ArtsFund is to support the arts through leadership, advocacy, and grant making in order to build a healthy, equitable, and creative Washington. And some of our previous work has focused specifically on the intersections of community health and arts and culture. Our social impact study has highlighted some of these connections, and I really look forward to using ArtsFund's platform to draw even more attention to these linkages in the future. Before we get started, I wanted to say a couple thank yous. First and foremost, to everyone that supports ArtsFund. We cannot do this without you, and we really appreciate everything that you do to support the organization and the sector. I want to say thank you to all of our amazing panelists. You're in for an incredible conversation with feedback from a lot of experts today. I want to say thank you to all of you for being here and for being attendees and for being a part of this conversation as well. And with that, I'm going to introduce our moderator, Patrick. And I see you're on, Patrick. Patrick Evans is the president and CEO of Sound. His bio is a lot longer than I have time to do justice to right now, but I will say that he has dedicated over 30 years of his life to serving the community's most vulnerable populations. He has been recognized by the Puget Sound Business Journal as an outstanding voice in our community, and he has put service above self for over 20 years as a member of Rotary. I personally know Patrick from his amazing work as a trustee of ArtsFund, and I'm really excited to have him moderating this discussion today. So with that, I will turn it over to Patrick.
Great, thank you. Hello, everyone, and thank you, Michael, for that nice introduction. Like Michael said, I'm Patrick Evans. I'm the president and CEO of Sound. I am a gay white male. I use the he, him pronouns. And today I am wearing a gray and pink jacket and, like Michael, a pink dress shirt. So I guess that's the color for today is pink. I am sitting in my office in Tukwila, and behind me is a large window with an amazing view of Mount Rainier. So thrilled to be doing this today as the moderator. So a couple housekeeping items, and then we'll jump right in. So just to note that audience mics and cameras are disabled, but we encourage you to use the chat to engage during the program. For questions for our panelists, and we hope that you have a lot of questions, please use the Q&A feature. And we have held some time at the end of our session today for questions, but you can go ahead and submit those at any time during the program, and we encourage you to do so. So with that, let's jump right in, and I am thrilled to welcome Aaron Walker Loud, who's going to start us out with an interesting activity. So Aaron, take it away and welcome.
Thank you so much, Michael and Patrick. It's great to be here with ArtsFund and Sound. My name is Aaron Walker Loud. I'm the director and founder of Big World Breaks. I am also a teaching artist for ArtsCore. And I have blonde hair tied into a little ponytail. I identify as white, American, and I have blue eyes and a white dress shirt on. And I'm in a maroon colored studio over here in the Central District where I make all my music, he, him pronouns. And it's great to be here. I'll tell you a little bit more about myself later, but I'm opening this with the idea of connecting our feelings, our perspectives, and understanding around the connection between arts and healing within the aspects of mental health and many other things that we're going to hear from our experts here today. And I mentioned that I'm in the Central District, and this is also where I grew up in the traditional historical Black Mecca of Seattle. I was blessed enough to be educated by music specialists who are from Louisiana, the birthplace of jazz music, which has shaped the world ever since its birth. And Mr. Robert Natt at Washington Middle School and Mr. Clarence Acox at Garfield High School are like father figures to me, and they raised me with education coming from that unique Louisiana perspective here in our neighborhood. And over the last few decades, thousands of students have benefited from what has become a legacy known around the world. And there's a lot of accolades and success in terms of music careers born out of that, as far as academic success for higher learning students went on beyond that. And today I'm going to move away from that. And it's really more so the focus is, what are we doing for our mind, our body, our spirit, our emotional and mental well-being when we participate in the arts? And specifically, music is my specialty. And once I moved on from Garfield High School, I was able to work with Mr. Brian Kirk, a great educator at Seattle Central Community College. And he also taught me more in depth about the history of Congo Square, which is a park in New Orleans, Louisiana, which is known as one of the most important parts of how jazz music was born. And without getting into a historical dissertation, the idea is many people who were enslaved, brought there against their will, all across the South were not able to, not allowed to create dance and music and honor their culture in those ways across the South without escaping potential punishment or death as a part of the institutional racism of slavery. And specifically in Congo Square on Sundays, as I learned from Mr. Kirk at Seattle Central, this was in a unique place where the local government decided, okay, on Sundays, anyone and everybody can get together, sing, dance, and create with each other. And as eventual things developed, we see how gospel music and blues music led to jazz music. And the core of gospel and blues, it's really about how people use their creativity to emotionally and spiritually and culturally survive the worst conditions we could even imagine that most of us would never even get close to experiencing, especially people like, with privilege like myself as a white man. So the idea is, from jump, we see the traditional African music forms and cultural forms being utilized and evolving over time. Foundation is rhythm that we're going to look at today, right now, using our hands with each other in just a moment. These are things that I've learned from my educators, and some of what we're going to look at is specifically the feel in the rhythms that were born out of gospel, blues, and then jazz as the daughter of those two art forms. And that swing and that shuffle feel is really at the heart of what makes things unique and what we call the feel of music, right? So what we're going to do now is looking at using our hands. So anybody who's watching, if you're able to, and at this point, I will invite all of our panelists who can turn their cameras on. We're going to be utilizing our hands to emulate some of these feels, some of these rhythms, to warm ourselves up and place ourselves in the shoes of students who are encouraged to be brave every day and risk making mistakes in front of other people and growing as creative individuals. So to keep it real simple, because we're not all equipped with percussion instruments, aside from what some of us were lucky enough to be born with, we're just going to use our hands. And the two tones we're going to be utilizing will be created with a fist and an open hand slap. So I'm going to utilize what we would call an echo game. And the idea is, you hear me do a quick rhythm phrase and you play it back to me. Some of it may be simple, some of it may be complex. Either way, I'll keep it very short. And we're just going to go back and forth real quick, kind of get used to those two pitches, those two tones, the fist and the slap. Then I'm going to get a little more specific with the swing feel. All right, repeat after me, please. Nice. Okay. Yeah. I love the smiles and seeing your hands move. And I can feel your energy, all the viewers, even though I can't see you. I know you're with me too. So we have almost 40 people. That's beautiful. Now, to get into the specifics of it, before I have us do some things that are a little bit more in the element of thinking and analyzing. Thank you for that. Thank you. We are going to look at the math. There's people here who are much more specialized in math than I am, but there is so much math in music that's worth just discussing to get the swing feel going. So as a part of the Black American and Pan-African innovation of gospel, blues, and jazz, we have the swing feel And essentially, if we were to turn notes and divide them into three, a lot of us were used to counting 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe more or less than those. But if we call those quarter notes, if we cut each of those quarter notes into three, we end up having triplet eighth notes, right? So that's 4 times 3, that's 12 per measure. So if we were to count it out loud, just count it with me, just so you can get a hand of how we might count that. That would be 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and keep going. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and slowing the speed, aka tempo, down. 1 and so we see there's a number, then there's a and there's a so that's all three of the triplet notes, the eighth note triplets. Now, what if we take the and out? We just have 1, 2, 3, 4. Put it back in. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Take it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the innovators in the South who created this in Congo Square and all across the South of Mississippi as well, with the blues and gospel and jazz, I know for a fact they weren't white splaining it like this. So you take out the missing triplet and we go 1 and it was a feeling thing, it was a cultural thing. But for all of us, especially those who are not trained in music, it's okay to just really try and get the counting down. So we're gonna look at what happens if we take out that missing, if we take out the triplet in the middle, which is and 1 and we're gonna go back and forth between including the and taking out the and let's see if we can identify, okay, that is what the swing feel is. Some people will call it a shuffle also. Let's try it together. We're gonna start just with all three of them together, and then we're gonna take out the middle one. So check it out, with your fist, you're gonna be using 1, and with your open hand slap, you're gonna be using and with you're gonna use your fist again. So I'll do a real slow tempo, play along with me. Don't worry about messing up. The idea is learning by ear, have fun with it. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and fist, fist, slap, fist, fist, slap, fist, fist, slap, fist, fist, slap. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now we're gonna take out the and we're gonna start switching back and forth on my cue. Right after this, we're gonna get some of our panelists to volunteer to try it on their own with their mics on, so we can get a chance to see how people are feeling with growing comfort in trying this out. Let's try it all together, back and forth. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, go. 1 and 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, just the fist. That's and the hand. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and just the swing. 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Add it. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and one more time. And 2, 3, fist, fist. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and okay. All right, I'm loving seeing this kind of participation. I can only imagine with our people out there. Here we go. So we're gonna take volunteers, and what I'm gonna ask you to do is pick challenge level 1 or challenge level 2. Challenge level 1 is just hitting with your fist. 1, 2, 3. Totally fine if you just want to do that. If you want to challenge yourself a little more, and once again, this is all risking making mistakes in front of a bunch of people you don't know, and that's part of how we grow. You're going to be adding that open hand slap to get the ands, that missing triplet. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and that's challenge level 2. So let's see who's up first. We'd like to get our panelists to jump in. Popcorn style, just let us know. Seize the day.
I'll go ahead and go with 2.
Oh, wow. Here we go. Right off the bat.
1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2.
Oh, all right, all right. Thank you so much. Great start. I love the confidence. Let's see who's next.
I can go.
Wonderful, thank you.
I'll do 2. I'm not gonna count it though, I'm just gonna play it.
Excellent. And I love how you opted in with your own specific need. Counting out loud or in your head, these are different things in how we support ourselves in the learning process. I just got the cue that we're going to make a quick transition. And momentarily, we have time for just one more volunteer, and then we're going to wrap it up and move on to the panel. Let me see. One last brave person. Let's get it.
I could try it.
Wonderful, wonderful.
I think I'm gonna do level 1. That's just the fist, right?
Yes, yes, exactly.
Okay. Let me see if I can make it like louder. Okay. Maybe if I hit this. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. So you're emphasizing the quarter notes, and then if you were in my class and we get further into it, we get more into the weeds of it. But essentially, if you have the quarter note down, you can build off of all of the rest with that foundation. Let's give it up for all of our volunteers. I love the courage. I know this is interesting to be put on the spot in Zoom in front of a bunch of people, but the idea is back to the topic, and I'll hand it back over to Patrick. Really, the idea is we know that for thousands of years, music has been a part, or even longer, depending on our beliefs on how humans have been on Earth. But ultimately, we know that it's about culture and it's about mental, emotional survival. And in the most intense and negative situations, we use arts and culture to survive and thrive. And even for those of us who are more fortunate with more privileges or just, more stable homes as we grow up and as we're adults, we can still utilize music and the arts to connect with other people and to continue to sharpen our ability to be better humans and to understand other cultures even more than we already do. So thank you for letting me warm everybody up. It's an honor to be here. I'll pass it back to Patrick.
Great, Aaron, thank you. What a great start. And I guess I don't know if it was good or bad that we ran out of time. I didn't get to go, but maybe at the end I can give it a shot. So thank you very much. So real quick here before we get into the panel, we have a great panel and I have a bunch of questions and we probably won't have enough time for all of them, but we'll do what we can. So just wanted to share with you a little bit that my connection here, like Michael said, I'm on the board of ArtsFund, but I also work at Sound. That's what I spend most of my time doing. And Sound is so proud to be a part of this conversation. And some of you I know that Sound provides mental health and substance use treatment services throughout King County. Each year we serve about 16,000 individuals in our community who are struggling with mental health issues and addiction issues. And we work with very young children up to older adults and kind of everyone in between. And just a real quick note from my connection with this, I'm actually a therapist by trade. And I haven't done therapy in a long time, but I totally get it. And many, many years ago, when I was in college, I worked at a summer camp called Camp O'Bannon. And that's how this all started for me, this connection of mental health and the arts. And I went to this camp and we were working with kids who had been sexually abused and physically abused. And part of the programming there was arts. And that's when, I didn't know a thing. I showed up and I learned it's like, this just makes sense. And that's been kind of a path for me, the journey through here. So with that said, let's jump in with the panel. So the panel, if you could turn your cameras on, and we'll jump right in here. And like I said, I have a bunch of questions and we'll just kind of play it by ear on time. Again, to the audience, I would encourage you, if you have questions, go ahead and put those in the Q&A and we'll try to get to a couple of those when we're done. So the first question is going to be for each of you, and I'll kind of call out names as we go through here, but please take a second, introduce yourself and tell us how your work, and it's all different, but how your work with the arts, how it intersects with positive social, emotional, and mental health. So Kristin, why don't you go first, please?
Hi, thank you. So happy to be here. My name is Kristin Schneider. I use she, her pronouns. I am a white woman with blonde hair pulled back and I'm wearing a purple blouse with frilly stuff. I don't know what to call this. Behind me is a light green wall that's in my office with a bookshelf. So I am a music therapist, and I also oversee the music therapy program, both at Music Center of the Northwest, which is up in North Seattle, as well as Music Works Northwest, which is over in Bellevue. And at both organizations, we work with neurodivergent and disabled individuals, and we use music as a tool to work on different clinical goals identified by the client and their family. And the goals that we work on in music therapy can range anywhere from working on academic skills and fine and gross motor skills. We can work on self-expression. We can work on coping strategies for anxiety and depression. We can work on, understanding our own sensory needs and access needs and finding ways to advocate for ourselves and communicate our needs. Just to name a few of the goals that we can work on. And so I love talking about the intersection between the arts and mental health, because I get to see how powerful I can be every day.
Great, thank you, wonderful. Let's go Ashyln.
Hello, my name is Ashyln. I am a clinician at Sound. I've been in the clinician position for a couple months, but as an intern before that and a vocational specialist before that. And I love this agency. I keep coming back. I am a white woman with pink hair. I like to keep it pink because it's fun. And I am wearing a tan dress. I would say the main way that my work currently impacts like art and mental health is that during my internship at our Capitol Hill location, another intern and I decided to start an art group via telehealth, via COVID. And since starting our art group, I've noticed our clients benefiting from both the regular aspects of any therapeutic group, as well as the aspects of art and being able to connect over art. I think those benefits might include like universality, sharing their art, being seen, getting feedback, using a positive coping skill. So I'm really excited to be here today and kind of share some of those experiences with you.
Great, thank you, thank you, thank you. Aaron.
Yes, thank you, Patrick. It's very personal for me in the fact that music was something that gave me grounding when I felt lost as a young person. And aside from the educators I mentioned, as I became a professional, I was able to return to Washington Middle School, where Mr. Nat turned me into a musician, and work as a collaborator with Miss Jeanette Jones, rest in peace, who worked with the Seattle Public School District and many other organizations in the area. And as a young educator in my early 20s, when I was really starting to get going, in a partnership between Big World Breaks and Arts Corps, we have a drum line there at Washington, still going strong. And I was reflecting with her at the end of the school year, and I said, oh, I bet these kids are looking forward to getting a break from school. And she gave me that that tough love, matriarchal look that she was always known for. And she said, Aaron, I'm sure some kids might be looking forward to it, but most of the ones who are in your drumline and many others actually have more challenging times outside of the school year and during the breaks. And she sat me down and she helped me really rethink the importance of what we're providing. And when students don't access the relationships in the community and the benefits of having other trusted adults to talk to, or even regular meals, or that ongoing communication with peers and adults that they get used to and accustomed to speaking with, to be a lifeline, that they often have some of their biggest challenges during winter break, during spring break, during summer break, on a personal and emotional level. And so from that time moving forward, it always continues to motivate me to think about what can I do during the school day and partnering with schools, and what can I as a leader be providing outside of school and during the school breaks, and thinking about more continuity and not being tourists in young people's lives, being tourists in families' lives, but how can I work as a leader to get more funding sources, more sustainable sources year by year, that will make sure that even during those breaks, students can still access programming that I'm providing. Even after they graduate from middle school or graduate from high school, what can I do to be able to provide opportunities so they can work as a teaching assistant and continue that relationship as a young adult. And so the growing programming that Big World Breaks has been developing, which is focused on music, and also the combination or the relationship between music and math, the relationship between music and humanities, history, language arts, the relationship between other subjects taught in school. So those are daytime residencies. I've also been doing many different after school programs from K through 12 with Big World Breaks and with Arts Corps that focus on a lot of those topics, including a lot of our award-winning drumline programs that we've been doing over the years. And so really the way I'm looking at it and using Miss Jones' wisdom and trying to adapt it to what I'm doing to this day is, how can we make the power and the attraction of music and culture be a vehicle really to provide a stronger, healthier village from day, night, all season, to be able to make sure our presence is there and consistent, and that students feel comfortable with the developed relationship, and family members feel comfortable with that trust building, to be able to have frank conversations with us and tell us really how we can improve our services, and we can build that trust over time.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. And then Janine.
Hello there, I'm Janine, and I am a grandmother of two young college-age grandchildren now, and identify as she, her, hers, and you see my kitchen in the background, along with a painting of Page, Arizona, that I painted on one of my own 30 by 40 canvases just for fun. I'm a visual artist, and I love creating visual art. That's kind of my focus in the arts. Just a quick bio. Before becoming ill, I was a professional drafter for architects and engineers for about 10 years. Today, after socially and emotionally recovering from mental illness, my path to recovery was through the arts. I began as a student from 2009 to 2013, creating visual arts with Path with Art, and over the years built my social and personal life back to health again, and later returned as a creative mentor in 2019. I was successful enough to begin a small consulting business part-time to focus on others in advocacy and social services as a state certified peer counselor. I continued to educate myself in the arts and went on to study at both the Fry Art Museum and Gage Academy. My thanks goes to Harborview Medical Center and Community Psychiatric Clinic for their invaluable support to my initial recovery. So that's just a quick bio on my background. And I did teach for a time, a period of about 2 years at a local community college in the profession. So before becoming ill. So that's kind of my background.
Great. Well, thank you for sharing that. It's interesting. So, all right, so we'll move on to the next question. And this one's going to be for Ashyln and Kristin. And I think the question I have is probably going to take longer to ask than the question or the answer maybe. So bear with me here as I think it's an interesting question. So for Ashyln and Kristin, studies show a deep connection between engagement with creative arts and positive health outcomes. We know that music, especially this group, we know that music, the visual arts, therapy, movement-based creative expression, expressive writing, all those different forms of art are effective in reducing adverse physical and psychological outcomes. And so for the two of you, and I'll have Ashyln go first if you don't mind, why is arts engagement so effective, especially in the work that you do?
Yeah, this is a great question. Personally, I believe that like when individuals have a safe space to process and freely express themselves, they start to heal and they continue to flourish. These aspects of both processing and freely expressing that can be done in a therapy session or in a painting or by writing a poem or creating a dance or making music. And it makes sense that when you combine both arts and mental health, that the outcomes would be stronger. Yeah. So I also think that like art can be a lot of different things that people need, like self-expression, humor, kindness, mindfulness. It's a coping skill that can replace coping skills that maybe aren't so positive, that can lead to addiction. And I think it's a way to connect with the world around you and let the world around you know that they're not alone in their experiences.
Great, thank you. Kristin?
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what Ashyln said. I think one of the really powerful things about music particularly is that it can express things that words can't always express. And I think along those same lines, for some people, it can feel safer to say what you're feeling through a work of art or by singing a song or playing an instrument to express an emotion or finding a song that somebody else has written that really resonates with you and your experience and your story. So I think, yeah, it's the self-expression aspect is key. And I think one way that we are able to process trauma and hard experiences is to tell our story to people around us. And music can be one way that we do that, especially, you know, speaking from a music therapist, songwriting and musical expression. And I think also just the act of making music it engages your whole mind. And so for me personally, it takes away a lot of the anxiety that I might experience on a day-to-day basis, because if I'm practicing my instrument, that absorbs all of my focus and all of my energy. And so there's no room for, you know, some of those difficult feelings that I might be experiencing before.
Great. Oh, I love it. That's great. Okay, so next question, I feel like I'm rushing a little bit, but I know we have a lot to share. So this next question we'll do for all four panelists again. And it's a pretty powerful question, or you could go a lot. So just kind of a brief overview, however you want to go with it. So question is, this was kind of related to COVID and pandemic that we're obviously all still dealing with here, but during the isolation due to the pandemic that we probably all experienced one way or the other, I know I certainly did, many turned to the arts. And so talk about the arts impact during this period that we're still experiencing, how that impacted your well-being and also of the clients and students that you worked with. So again, I know we could spend 5 hours on that, but just how was that for you? And Aaron, let's start with you.
Thank you, Patrick. And I appreciate this question. And really, I think for me, a lot of our programming, there's culminating events, presentations, performances, and in some case competitions, right? Take all that out the window. And what you're left with is what's the content and what's the relationship building? What's the trust building? It's all internal. There's no public to share things with a few digital examples. But ultimately, I think that for me personally, as my uncle, who was an educator for years, rest in peace, Uncle Rick, he always told me, Aaron, if the student really authentically knows that you care about them, they will be much more successful in learning what you're trying to teach. And in the last year and a half, what this has reminded me of is that really that's the whole focus, especially when we are not presenting or performing or creating some culminating project. And coming out of it, whenever that is, as the stages unfold, we can be back in person in our classrooms more often and hopefully full time. That is something that I will not turn back into my regular mode, where it's just like, okay, I make sure we have good relationship with students and families, but really we're just trying to get ready for the competition. Or really we got this spring concert to look at. Like, I can be pretty product oriented, and I think that I will never turn back and make sure that like half, if not more, of my focus is on relationship building and trust building. And I'll be figuring out how to deal with that challenge. But I think for myself, just on a personal note, the challenge of not being able to be on stage with my peers as an artist, and the challenge of not being able to have that satisfaction of all the instruments in one room with my students and that powerful sound and seeing people and their body language and that in-person communication, it was challenging for me as well, feeling isolated in this bubble here. My students, it many times felt like a lifeline for me to keep me connected to a baseline of human contact and experience. And as much as I was trying to be a lifeline for them, they were definitely that for me, if not more. And I think that ultimately, if we can let people know right now during this challenge and moving forward, when we don't have the answers, letting them know when we're struggling as leaders, as teachers, as educators, when we say we're not sure about this, or we're struggling with that on a personal or a curriculum level, then we're going to help them hopefully want to open up more with us about what they're struggling with, and have a more honest conversation between all the people involved. And that's all I got for now. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Aaron. Janine?
Yes, during the pandemic, I heard from a couple of the students with Path with Art that the program brought them great joy and confidence in themselves through the Zoom platform during the pandemic. And it is a beautiful thing to watch how others benefited from the program with Path with Art. Not only during the pandemic, but over the years, Path with Art has just continually expanded their outreach to the community in such innovative ways that it just takes my breath away. Unfortunately, I was unable to mentor during the pandemic because of the increased advocacy workload in social services during the pandemic. But knowing that Path with Art was innovatively reaching out to the other artists in such a way with the Zoom platform and everything, just really gave me hope that I would be able to return to mentoring again, regardless of what the future holds. So I really, pat Path with Art on the back for stepping up to the plate and really putting together some effective ways to continue the learning process.
Great, thank you. Kristin?
Yeah, I think for me, I alluded to this a little bit before that, playing my instrument really does a lot for my well-being. And I think it helps me to feel connected with the musicians that I used to play with in real life, even though I'm not playing with them right now. I really resonated with what Aaron alluded to about not being with his peers on stage. I really miss that, but playing my instrument helps me to feel connected. But as far as my clients, I think one thing that I was really surprised and amazed by was the impact of music therapy groups that are happening virtually. We offered in-person music therapy groups before the pandemic and weren't really sure how that was going to transfer over to the virtual platform. But once we worked out the bugs, I think we found that the impact was really huge on the community. And there were lots of families that we work with who mentioned that this is one of the very few opportunities that they or their students have to connect with other members of the disability community, other members of the neurodiversity community, in a really fun and welcoming and they feel the freedom to be themselves. So I think that's one thing that I have seen, just that community aspect of making music together, whether it's virtual or in person, the impact is still there.
Great, thank you. Ashyln, what's your perspective?
Yeah, for me, I think like arts greatly impacted my personal well-being during the pandemic. I think it's really important to me to walk the walk and practice the things that we're telling our clients to do in terms of self-care. So like I did a lot of art projects at my house. I learned to play the ukulele. I saw someone mention that in the chat and that made me really excited. I bought watercolor painting kits so I could actually make examples for our art group of ideas, sewed masks and made crafts and mailed them to friends. So I think that those are all like great ways of coping for me personally as a clinician, intern at the time and clinician now. We started the art group via telehealth in January, and because of COVID restrictions, we had to be pretty creative with it. So we create a theme each week that's relevant to mental health, as well as an art prompt to work on and share for the following week. So we'll brainstorm together, begin sessions with mindfulness practices, and allow for a general check-in. And I think the prompts have varied so much that everyone usually finds something that they really connect with or benefit from. I think for both me and the clients that we've done the art group with, it really elicits a sense of connection to the self and to others in a very lonely time. It facilitates healing, and it offers time for like processing and mindfulness. Like, it makes me so happy to see these clients like giving each other support, being like, wow, I love your art piece. And it's like, wow, really, you love it? So really just like getting that support and seeing it has been amazing. I asked this question to the clients, like how art has like impacted them during the pandemic to prepare for this. And they said that like, it's hard to not practice mindfulness and think about the state of the world when you're doing something that you love that keeps you mindful and doing well. So I thought that that was like a really interesting part of it too, that I wanted to share.
Great, thank you. Yeah, that's powerful. Wonderful, thank you. All right, so I know we're going to run out of time here. We're just getting started. So, so we'll move on to the next question here. And this is going to be for Kristin and Aaron. It's more around education. And again, the question's probably longer potentially than the answer. So let me throw this out there, and then I'll have Kristin go first and then Aaron. So despite the evidence, I think most of us probably tonight know this, on the measurable benefits of the arts on education, such as we know students have increased academic performance. We know innovative thinking improves because of connection with the arts. But with that said, even with that evidence there, we know that the arts continue to be marginalized in education. So I'm wondering if you have any perspective, I know a quick perspective though, on how our community can address this issue, because the arts are so important. Any ideas on how we can address that? So let's have Kristin go first.
Yeah, I think the advocacy work that ArtsFund and other community organizations are doing is a big part of the solution. Speaking of from my own experience as a music therapist specifically, I find that a lot of the folks that I talk to don't know what music therapy is or how far-reaching the benefits might be. So I think it's less about an unwillingness, at least with the people that I talk to every day, it's less about an unwillingness as it is more of just a lack of experience with the arts in that context. So I love talking about the arts and music therapy specifically. So I take every chance that I can to share about my work with folks in the community. So I think that's one way that the community can combat this, is just through spreading the word.
Thank you. That's good. And thank you for calling out the important work that ArtsFund does around this. That's, I think, one of the key things that we do is that the advocacy and awareness and making a connection for folks. So Aaron, what about you? Perspective on this?
Thank you. I feel that we have been trying to find creative ways to advocate for ourselves, those of us in the arts, in new ways, every political cycle, every decade, every generation, to make it more of a focus, and we've been struggling. And because of the emphasis on trying to prove that the arts support the increased test scores and increased engagement with what some people call the core subjects of math and science, language arts, and so on and so forth, we have accidentally sabotaged ourselves, giving us now an opportunity to help shift the paradigm of not looking at the arts and culture as something that improves these other things as if that is more important. I feel like it would be great for all of us to find ways to shift the conversation more towards a balanced level of the importance of all of these elements of how young people and adults can be focusing their lives on these different things. I think because of the ills of institutional racism, what we're seeing is that like music and arts and culture have been taught through that lens, whether teachers or school principals realize it or not. Therefore, the perpetuation of who makes the top positions of the bands or the dance programs or this or that, you know, the caste system that we all live in, driven by racism and economic oppression, it plays itself out when it looks like who's going to get the scholarships and the opportunities in higher learning and career in music and arts programs in colleges, in career opportunities and opportunities to be leadership positions in arts organizations, not just on the front line, you know, with everybody, but really like all of those things are playing out because of the same ills, right? So I think that if we can shift that conversation more towards being people that can either fund or teach or programmatically direct things that are using the voice and the leadership of Black and Brown people who have been pushing the needle forward on cultural innovation in a way that has influenced the entire world beyond any other group that could claim. It's like, well, let's make sure to honor that and celebrate that, not just in what we talk about, but in who gets those top positions, who gets the ability to take us in the direction with their leadership. I'll leave it at that.
Great, thank you. Thank you. So we'll try to get maybe 2 more questions in. And again, it's hard for me to see here, but if hopefully there's some questions in the Q&A box. If not, folks, this is the opportunity to put those in there. We'll have a couple minutes for that. So this question will be for the entire panel. And this is really tied specifically to mental health. But with so many issues out there surrounding mental health, you're facing a significant stigma with that. We still struggle with that, even though I think it's gotten better. Its stigma is still out there. It's very much in our community. In what ways do you see that the arts can help address that? And let's go with Janine first.
Okay, yeah. I think stigma is something of a mindset that is overcome by acceptance and no judgment. Path with Art does an excellent job of no judgment, by giving the students respect and consideration they deserve after surviving devastating situations. This healing approach gives students a chance to grow and thrive in a difficult world. The grace this program has provided has allowed for many to grow and heal, to become a whole person in an artistically holistic manner. There are no words for the healing work of the creative process because it involves mindfulness in such a powerful way that students are able to stay present with themselves and eventually with others. So that's my thoughts on that.
Great, thank you. Ashyln?
Yeah, I think that art is just another way to talk about it. When we share art, particularly geared toward like mental health, personal journeys, hardships, and like we recently did a group where the theme was medication. Like we remind others that they're not alone in their mental illness. A lot of people experience mental illness, probably a lot more than you would think. And I think that that in itself can hugely impact stigma and decrease it. And I think this really connects to the article that was sent out about like how they use art to educate about the dangers of fishing in the Duwamish River. It can just be a catalyst for social change and education.
Great, thank you. Aaron?
Thank you so much. It's great to hear the perspectives from everybody else here. And in that theme, this is one of the first times I've been able to really sit in the room with people who are bringing so much to the table regarding mental health and wellness. And I honestly feel like a lot of times it seems like students that I work with, when they end up receiving the help that they need regarding mental and emotional help, it's definitely not enough. There's not enough resources. There's not enough local and state and federal funding for those things. But I also feel like sometimes it's reactionary, and I'd rather see the people who specialize in health not necessarily receiving what other people determine as far as clients, as far as students and families, more so being in the inception phase with those of us who are in the arts from the very beginning, so we can all be more informed and educated by those who come from a specialty of mental health and wellness, so that the program we're doing, the marketing we're doing, is all informed by their knowledge up front, so we can make sure to use language and materials and resources and be informed much more about what's happening. So when we start working with students, it's not become some emergency happen or there was an outburst or some dangerous incident because of mental health. It's really like from the very beginning, we should be moving forward on the front line with our mental health specialists and organizations, as opposed to having them react to everything that we encounter on the front line as art specialists. And I'll leave it at that for now.
Wow. Okay, thank you, Aaron. And Kristin, any final perspective on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Ashyln alluded to this a little bit. Self-expression through the arts, especially in a group context, can show us that we are not alone. You know, I've been in a lot of music therapy groups where it's a group of people who are seemingly have nothing in common. And by the end of the hour, we realize how many similarities there are in our experiences and in what we're facing. So I think, yeah, that for me is what is so powerful. Both it's easier to express ourselves sometimes through arts, as well as, you know, finding that common ground in a group can really help reduce the stigma, I think.
Great, thank you. All right, so I know I'm the moderator here, but we're gonna do one more question. It'll be the last formal question, and I think there's one in the box, and then we'll wrap up on time. I promise you, I will get us there, I think. And if not, that's okay too, if we run over a second. But so again, this question is very powerful, and we've kind of alluded to it a little bit. I know Aaron touched on this a little bit, but I'll ask it if you could just do kind of a brief kind of response to this. And again, this is for all four of the panelists. So kind of looking forward as we kind of go forward into the future, and how do we support arts in the community and the impact on mental health? What message should we be sending our elected officials regarding the arts and mental health, just in terms of their impact on funding and prioritizing where money goes in our community? So just any kind of quick ideas on what we could do around that. So we'll start with Ashyln.
Yeah, I guess just the basic message that I believe should be sent is that art therapy is research driven, and it's a key piece to many of our clients' journeys to recovery and maintaining that recovery. Funding arts in mental health is synonymous just to funding mental health in some ways.
Agreed, thank you. Aaron?
Thank you, finding that mute button. So just to piggyback off of what has been said already, I think that this here, if we have these kind of things more often, and this turns into effectively built coalitions that have sustainability, this kind of a coalition that gets broader, whether it's on a local or state level, I think can be leveraged to then have a more informed and unified voice, which has power, and that power can be leveraged to hold elected officials more accountable, or hold people accountable who are trying to run or rerun for office. And I think that beyond the coalition of the professionals who are on the front line, who are getting the funding happening, who are directing the programs, a missing piece that often we see is the families and the young people we serve, and how can we effectively build the people we serve into the coalition and give them real power to voice and inform and direct the directions that we're moving, give us honest feedback, help build an environment where they know they can be bluntly honest with us, those that we serve, so that we can improve it and improve it. And then when we have that unified voice of all four of those sectors directed at our elected officials, then I think there's no stopping us. And I think that a lot of our officials are really good at using updated 2021 talking points. They're not as good at getting what we really need, which is dollars, community-informed policy change, and sustainable initiatives that are really benefiting who we serve, not just keeping us all employed. That's all I'm going to say right now.
Wow, great. Yes. Kristin, real quick.
Yeah, I'll be short. I think supporting the arts does so much more than just supporting the arts. Supporting the arts promotes healthy community, and it brings people together, and it can be a practical way to support folks in a non-traditional way.
Thank you. And Janine.
Yes, yeah, I just really feel as a student alumni of Path with Art, and having experienced the mental illness and been on the recovery path and continuing my recovery path, it it's through the healing work of our creative process in the arts that we can return to living a full life together again. And that's kind of my final statement on that.
Great, that's a good one. Thank you. So there are 2 questions in the Q&A box, and we're not going to have time. They're great questions, totally different, as you might imagine. So I'm going to pick one and just throw it out there real quick, guys. So this one is dear to my heart. So I'm going to go with the question is, so many children are bullied. Can you give specific ideas on how to help children who have been bullied? So if anybody wants to jump in there, if you have any quick suggestions. All right, Kristin, I'll pick on you.
I actually have a specific example of a music therapy session that I did, and we wrote a song about bullying. And it was the kids' idea that they wanted to write about that. And so I can't remember, it wasn't me that led the session, it was a colleague of mine. And she used the song Firework by Katy Perry, but we replaced some of the words. So we talked about feelings and, you know, what it's like when that is happening to you and what we can do when we're in that situation. And then we all sang the song together. This was a virtual session too. So, I mean, coming at it from a music therapist lens, that's my solution, is turn it into a song. But
yeah, I like it. Ashyln, you want to add anything to that as our therapist here?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't work with kids, so I'm viewing it from a different angle, and I think I would like a little bit more information about like what the person would be comfortable with. But I do think that like just putting that frustration into art in some type of way could be a good solution to let it out.
Okay, thank you. And I know certainly, I mean, adults are bullied as well, so it's not just a kids thing. So yeah, I totally get that. So, all right, so we've come to the point where we need to wrap things up. I want to thank the panelists. What an amazing group. I think we could just like go on for hours. We need to do this again. It's a great place to start the conversation. And, you know, for me sitting back and asking the questions, it's just like, oh yeah, I haven't thought about that in a while, or that's a new perspective. But to me, the takeaway is the arts are powerful. The arts change lives and they impact our community in a positive way. And this is where that conversation starts. And how do we move that forward? And how do we take this message of this group that's here today and push that out into the community? So I want to thank you all for being a part of that and sharing your perspective on things. So Michael, I will turn it over to you to close this out. And thank you for letting me be a part of this.
Well, I have nothing more intelligent or anything better to say than what has just been said. So all I'm going to say to close this out is a huge thank you to everybody that's participated here, and a special message to everyone that is an attendee here. Please use your voice. Use your voice in your everyday conversations. Use your voice in your vote. Use your voice in your donations. We have organizations here that represent Arts Corps, Big World Breaks, Path with Art, Music Center Northwest, Sound, and of course, ArtsFund. Support the individuals, support the organizations, support the people that make this work possible, because that's how your voice helps to amplify everything that we're talking about here. So with that, I will just say again, thank you to everyone for being a part of this and sharing your expertise and your lived experience. And I hope that we can continue these conversations together and individually. So please take care and have a great evening, everyone.